I'm Brett Bursey. I'm the executive director of a 26-year-old organization that was formed from one that's 43 years old. For 43 years now, I've been basically studying the critical impact of race on South Carolina policies and politics. I had no idea it was critical race theory. And what I want to talk about is I know that the sponsors of this bill weren't old enough or didn't live in South Carolina like I did to grow up under Jim Crow. I know that you don't probably understand the reason America was started as a racist country with slavery was because of the South Carolina delegation to the Constitutional Convention in 1787. Or that the 3/5 compromise, y'all remember that from high school maybe, I know. Ms. Bennett, you went to school in Maryland. They always voted in Maryland going all the way back literally to the 1850s.
I'll have to correct you that Ms. Bennett is not here today. She is out sick.
Well,
she does serve on this committee. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, she can.
Yes.
And so what's so important here is y'all aren't from here, is what they say. And who's your daddy? And were you old enough to understand the history of South Carolina? It's brutal on purpose. It's deep. And history's written by the winners. The history books in South Carolina they had when I was in school, in segregated school in Beaufort, South Carolina, were written in South Carolina by the same family from 1840, and they were still in use in 1970. William Sims, a great segregationist, was a great historian. He wrote the first books. His granddaughter picked it up. And in the most recent iteration of it, she talked about the ignorant, superstitious colored people being taken advantage of by the carpetbaggers and the scallywags. They were happy people before those outsiders came down and stirred them up. That's the history of the state, writing curriculum in history. That's the danger that you people are treading on. I'm telling you, your grandchildren will be looking at you if you, in the Republican Party, which is now the all-white party. I had the opportunity and responsibility for being Majeska's lieutenant for the last 18 years of her long life. She died in 92. And we started a school, the Majeska Civic School for Human Rights, which I would give you all a scholarship. It starts this Sunday. It's 18 Mondays long. It's a serious dive into the realities of the criticality of race on politics and policy in South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Bursey. Do we have any questions? If not, thank you, sir, very much. I'm sorry. Ms. Trantham.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Just a quick question. You had mentioned, Mr. Bursey, playing the race card. Can you please,
speak up,
you
sir.
said playing the race card. Can you please elaborate on that and explain to me what you mean by that?
Let's look at the fact that all the people that are the sponsors of these bills, one of them had opposition. Ms. Bennett had opposition. The others had no opposition. The only person that actually had primary opposition was Mr. May. And Mr. May had primary opposition, and the people in the primary turned out 4% of the registered voters in his district. We have the least competitive elections in the nation since 2000. I watched this happen. Watched the white party. You know, there was the Democrats. 1970, we started having some black people coming in. By 2000, the Republicans controlled everything, and you've continued to solidify that by making it more difficult to vote.
I understand what you're talking about, but I need you to answer the question. Please elaborate on your comment, playing the race card. What exactly does that mean? Or better yet, why don't you just give me a very simple example of what that means? I'll give you a very simple answer that came from South Carolina. In 1982, Lee Atwater, do you know who Lee Atwater was? Lee Atwater is a Columbia man. Lee Atwater was Ronald Reagan's advisor. Lee Atwater's mentor was Harry Dent. Harry Dent's from Columbia. Harry Dent was Nixon's advisor. Dent was the author of a thing called the Southern Strategy, where they were looking at how do we control the white working class vote by not appearing to be stone cold racist. That was the Southern Strategy. In 1982, we have a recording that you can hear if you come to the Majeska School of Lee Atwater, Columbia man,
talking about how in the Reagan era, you can't just say the N-word, N-word, N-word anymore and get elected. You have to change that some. And so they started talking about welfare queens. And so we now have a whole concept of critical race theory that is a race card. You're contorting the notion of critical race theory to be the problem when you look at criticality of the race issues.
Mr. Bursey, for the sake of this committee and time, I don't think I'm going to get the answer that I've asked you 2 times for, so we can continue on with the next.
Thank you, Mr. Bursey.
I was saying it was a good answer.
We appreciate you being with us today, and thank you so much.
Okay, Ms. McDaniel, you just came in late. Do you have any questions? Annie is a graduate of our school.
We're moving on. Annie's a graduate of your school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
I would offer everybody here a scholarship. Majestica School.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. At this time, I'd like to call on Representative R.J. May.